Hi there, I'm out on this pasture. It's absolutely lovely, but it's really windy, like it always is, as I say in these films, and my main camera is just going to fall over, so I'm limited to one small one at the moment, but it's quite a good camera, especially in good light. I'm going to have a little bit of a whinge, a little bit of a rant. I found one really cool thing so far, which I'll show you in a second, but I've now been using this machine for quite a long time. Now, I know I've only had it for 3 or 4 months, but I've been out a lot with it, and I'm getting the hang of it. I'm really having mixed thoughts of it. I think I can count on one hand, literally, what I think I might have found with this machine, which I may not have found with the other one. But I'm not sure the payback is enough. This machine really is driving me slightly mad. Now, I know I'm new to it, and there are loads of experts out there which swear by the XP Deus. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go out with someone who really knows this machine and be shown what I'm doing wrong, because it is doing my head in a little bit, I've got to say. I think what my main problem is that in making it more powerful and more obvious, what it's done is it makes me somewhere like here, which is full of modern coinage and ring pulls, and they're all at a certain depth. I know that to avoid them. What would be normally be a smaller, wispier signal is definitely more powerful with that. So you're digging up what you think may be slightly deeper and more powerful coming through is in fact something which is only 2 inches deep, and it's a ring pull or it's some bit of modern coinage. Now, I know this is, you've got to set up your machine to suit your land, but I've dug up about 15 bottle tops today. I would never have dug a bottle top with a Deus. Never, ever in a million years. But again, I might be on the wrong settings. I might be using it wrongly. Hi there, well, it's me butting in very quickly, mainly to say that since I made that video, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, things have got slightly easier, and it's a lot of it's been from what you've been telling me from a previous video before this one came out. The problems, I think, are mainly arising from the fact that I'm not used to multi-frequency. I probably have the sensitivity too high, and a lot of you are saying that my discrimination is too low, and there's a reason for the Deus II keeping all the factory settings on a discrimination of a sort of round about 6, because if you lower it too much, like I'm used to with the hot program and the Deus I, right to minus 6.4, it's going to start playing around with all sorts of things. Now, I'm not sure which of these are correct. I think they all are to a degree, but what I'm finding is I'm going to have to tinker around till I've got the right settings. I personally don't think it's got as much to do with the discrimination as it has reactivity and sensitivity with full multi-frequency, but I'm getting there. You'll be pleased to hear that it is becoming slightly easier, but the main reason I'm butting in now is that I am, as we speak, teeing up a lesson or two, for want of a better word, with someone who knows their onions when it comes to this sort of thing. If you've watched previous videos of mine, you'll see from about 1.5 years ago, I did some quite interesting comparisons between the Deus II and the Deus I with someone, and you can go back and watch those, but I think it'll be very helpful and that'll be in a week or two. As I said, with the Deus I learned it all myself, like most of you do with your machines. That's fine, but it took me a long time, and that's why I actually give lessons on the Deus I, because I'd like to show people what I've learned. Deus Lite, that is, just your ears, no numbers. Because I think it helps having someone tell you or show you what it's all about. And with the Deus II, I need to. I don't think I can do it by myself. I think I'll save a lot of time if someone's there to say, sensitivity is too high in this ground, your discrimination is too low in this ground, you've got to da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I think it'll save me a lot of hassle. So watch this space. Let's go back. Let's go back for some more rant. Then we get to some metal detecting, I promise you. I'm digging up very deep iron, which is slightly falsing. Not the obvious falsing this gives, I think mainly due to it being multi-frequency. I'm finding it, dare I say it, it's not a Deus I for dummies, no, it's more powerful. You've got to get used to the power of it, really. But every ounce of skill I needed with the Deus I to eke out tiny wispy targets, knowing what they were. I'm wasting so much time digging stuff I don't want to be digging. That's the bottom line. Now, I know a lot of you will say, oh, dig everything anyway. You've got to dig everything anyway. Well, no, you don't. You really don't have to dig everything anyway. It's time management. If you want to dig absolutely everything, wasting your time on things that you really shouldn't be digging, with the odd chance of finding something really good, then fine. I mean, I honestly believe that the reason that my success rate is quite high is A, I have very good land, admittedly, but B, I limit myself to digging what I know has got a really strong percentage chance of being good. If after I've finished with a field completely, then I can start digging all the ring pulls and the modern coinage, but not when I don't want to. And this machine is making me dig stuff I don't want to be digging. Okay, rant over. And I know I'm not an expert yet. I'm the first to admit it, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm going to love this machine, but I'm not at the moment. I'm not enjoying using it at the moment. I've really got to be honest. I think it's more powerful. I think you find more stuff. Is it fun to use at the moment? No, it's not. I said it. No, it's not. But I think that will all change if I spend a couple of sessions, really long sessions, with someone who knows what they're doing. I didn't need that with the Deus I. I learnt myself over a period of 8 or 9 years, and I still am learning, but not with this. This is really confusing me. Anyhow, my God, how long did that last for? I'm so sorry. Rant over. But I'm going to hopefully give you an idea of what I mean. Now, this I think is definitely iron. But you can't really ignore it. I probably wouldn't ignore it with the Deus I. Let's have a listen. I'm having trouble with this speaker, but bear with me. Tiny bit of a good signal with iron there. More irony here. Very irony there. Very irony there. I'm going to dig it because there's just enough, but I wouldn't usually, I don't think. I would ignore this. I'm just still digging stuff which I need to understand. So this will be iron. I'll throw this away if it's not iron, because I'm not digging stuff like this. Doesn't sound like iron anymore, does it? Which means it's probably a bottle top. Now, it's giving a good signal. Not there, it's not. There's a bit of a squeak everywhere, isn't there? See, you shouldn't be... I don't think you should be being made to feel like this with the machine. It should, by this stage, you should be knowing whether it's iron or not. Definitely, 100%. But you don't yet here. I bet it's a bottle top. Still in there. Well, I'd probably edit half that rant out. God, I went on forever. I wasn't meaning to. Right, listen to this now. Right, if it had sounded deep and wispy like that to start off with, you definitely dig that. There's no iron in it at all, is there? Right, it's there. I'm very slightly off, but I still think it's got some depth. My God. Right. Sounded good 2 minutes ago. It's not very good now, is it? That's because it's a bloody great nail at about 8 or 9 inches. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I've just wasted 10 minutes on that. Well, not 10 minutes, but you know, close to. When I shouldn't be being fooled by that. Not really. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving what I feel. I don't need any help with very obvious signals sounding louder and more powerful. We need help knowing what the deeper ones are. Right, But look at this. It's part of a Saxon brooch. I know it is because I found one here before, and it's such a shame that it's not a full one. It's Boré style, I think. It's just absolutely lovely, and it's going to clean up beautifully. And really, really well. As I said, it's a shame that it's not full. But look, let's go back to headquarters and have a closer look at this and compare it to the last one I found here. Okay, let's go. Well, this was just such a lovely thing to find. On the day, I thought it might be different to the ones I found already, but I've got the ones I found already here now, and they are two extremely nice brooches. Not found particularly close to each other, but they are exactly the same design. This one I did find quite close to this segment here, and when I look at them closely and put them together, I think it's a pretty much identical design. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but there's something very similar here, if not the same design, on the portable antiquities scheme, and it's Boré style, they call it. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, B-O-R-R-E, Bor or Boré, and it's from a place in Norway where a massive hoard of stuff, Viking stuff, was found, and it was the first big hoard they'd found with this sort of interwoven sort of geometric type shapes, all sort of intertwined and moving around inside each other. So that's what they mean by Bor style, and it dates to about 900, 1000 AD, and it's Viking or Scandinavian, or probably, if we're going to be very technical, Anglo-Scandinavian, but that's just wonderful. So the two full ones there, all very nice, and then this fragment. I could probably bend it back a little bit, straighten it up, even though it's a fragment, I mean, shame it's not full, but all the same, jolly nice little bit of a Viking style brooch. I'm really pleased with it. And if nothing else, it's got a lovely catch, showing you how it works. And as I often say, the technology hasn't changed in millennia. If you buy a badge or sort of a broochy type thing today, your pin goes in one side, doesn't it? It rolls on a sort of axis and it clips into a sort of thing like that. Anyway, thank you very much. We've got quite a lot to get through now, believe it or not. Even though I was ranting away, we still found things, which is a bit of a godsend. Now this is quite a nice sound. I'm going to have to switch this off in a minute, and I'll get some new wires and a new speaker because it's driving me a bit mad. God, it's lovely to be out. Now this to me sounds all right. It's not too close to the surface, I think. It's quite coppery sounding. That's not a bad sign with this. That's all right. It's all the way round. Probably a cartridge. But I don't mind what it is. I really don't mind what it is. I just want to be knowing what it is. That's all. I don't want to be wasting my time digging things I don't want to be digging. I don't want to be digging 20 pences and 1p's. I don't care that I'm leaving them. I don't want to be digging them. I know they're there. But this is quite promising. Right, well, it's a cartridge. As I thought it did. It just sounded like a cartridge, but then lots of nice things do sound like cartridges, so I'm not worried about that. And it was quite deep. Would I have found it with the old machine? Yes. So that's not a problem. Well, having said all that, that's quite nice. Look, just on the edge of the spade there. Gave a really stuttery, nasty... Well, I mean, it gave an interesting signal. It was quite irony, if I'm being completely honest. But that's nice. What a lovely buckle. Lovely design on it. I've never seen one of those before. The design it's quite crude, makes you think it might be quite early. Maybe pre-Tudor, even though it's quite an odd one. A slider of sorts. Look at that, isn't that fabulous? Well, I'm pleased with that. Lovely. What a cool buckle. Well, I'm wondering whether all may be forgiven, and even if it is forgiven, it's not forgiven completely, because this sounded 50% iron, 50% normal, same as the ones that you usually ignore with the sensitive full tones, because if it's not giving you a nice signal all the way around, then it's more than likely to be iron. I wanted to dig this because I wanted to know what it was. It was about 15 inches deep, and it's not sounding like iron anymore. Well, not to me, it's not. I don't know what it is yet. I can let you hear it first. I mean, that's not iron. But from that far down, it was iron. I had a tiny squeak like in the old days. But I've been, so if this is something good, I mean, it's a pain because it means now I've got to dig every signal that's giving me a deep iron sound with a tiny bit of normal. I mean, with the sensitive full tones, that's the one I'm using. I'm sure general in it, deep HC I don't think is going to help with the light without a readout. I mean, I know the sensitive full tones is a sparky thing, but I know it's the one that I'm going to want to use the most. I've got to get used to it. I don't know what it is. As I said, I haven't seen it yet. Well, that's all it is. It's a tiny piece of rubbishy lead, but it was miles down. So, I mean, my early thoughts on this do remain the same. I think it's a better, more powerful machine, but I don't think it's fun to use at the moment. But I mean, I don't think I would have dug that perhaps with the old one. I know it's not the same machine as well. I know you shouldn't compare it to the old Deus II, Deus I. Well, there's a lot of similarities actually. I mean, you can't say it's completely different. I don't think it's the same as an Equinox and an XP machine being different, but that's what it was. I'll show you. I'm not getting out my small camera for this. Well, I've just found something fabulous. I'm wondering if all is forgiven. Sounded a bit foily, and it was quite deep. I think I might have been getting my knickers in a bit of a twist earlier. I mean what I say. I don't think it's as much fun, but I think I'll find more stuff. Now look at this. You're going to get much the same view. I've come down the hill slightly, so I've got both cameras running because it's a little less windy. But this is just, well, it's an English Jetton, and not only is it an English Jetton, but it's in just the most incredible condition. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. These are rare. These are really rare. They date to the early 14th century to the late 14th century, time of Edward I onwards. And to find one like this in this condition is just, okay, it's got a cross on one side, all sorts of things going on there, and it's got a picture of a monarch or a bishop on the other. Wow, I mean, that's so it made everything better. Well, possibly. Are you going to get much the same view as well at the moment, I'm afraid, because of the wind? But wow, that's mind-blowing. I mean, that I'm going to say even now, that's the best Jetton I have ever found, ever. Let's go back to headquarters and have a closer look. I mean, I'm speechless. Right, let's go. Hi there and welcome back. Well, this is the best English Jetton I've found by a long chalk. It's absolutely wonderful. And God, I feel lucky to have found it. I've just been looking on the Portable Antiquities Scheme website. There's a few English Jettons found. In fact, there's only 12 on the site with a bishop's head on it. But my God, they're not in anything like the condition that this is in. I mean, this must have been almost dropped the day it was made.
I mean, it's just phenomenal. Now, I talk quite a lot about Jettons in these videos, mainly because I find quite a lot, but nothing like the amount of hammered coins I find. So, what I'm trying to say is, it's not that I found a lot of the hammered coins, but I haven't found that many really, really good Jettons. But to cut a story short, so as not to bore you for too long, come the middle of the 14th century, sort of 1320 onwards, the main Jetton being used in England is these French ones. They're quite thick, they're quite solid, they're really well made. This one's an absolute beauty. It's got the crown on one side. I won't bore you with it now, but that's what happens. Come the 15th century, German Jettons tend to take over, and this one's a particularly good one. It's got the Lion of St. Mark on one. Again, it's quite thick, but before you know it, they become these very thin, mainly what they call rose and orb types. They've got the roses on one side and the orb on the other. And if you look at the difference between thickness, I mean, I could bend that by looking at it. I mean, they really do become very, very sort of, I mean, they must have been making sort of hundreds of these of this sort of quality. But before any of that, from about 1280 onwards, in the reign of Edward I, you get the English Jetton. Now, very quickly, these are reckoning counters. They were used on boards or bits of cloth, like a sort of horizontal abacus, and you use these to line up all your columns, to do all your mathematical sums. As I said, these very early types, I don't think I've got a hammered English penny, an early hammered English Edward penny to... Is that one? No. These early types are very much imitating the coins of the day, the penny sterling coins of the day. You've got a cross on one side. In this case, it's a straight short cross, no void. I think I can see crescent moons or something, and stars, and all sorts of things going around the outside. And on the other, we have the bishop, the bishop's head, bishop's mitre. Often it's not a bishop. Instead, it's a very much an Edward Penny looking monarch with a crown and sort of curly hair coming like that. They're also called anigraphic, something like that. I don't know the word, Annie something, which means there's no legend on these early ones. And sometimes when there is one, it doesn't mean anything anyway. But so that's that. That's a very early English Jetton, and not just a very early English Jetton. It's an absolutely mint condition, and that's the best thing I've found in ages. I mean, I'm completely thrilled. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to all that, and let's get back to the fields.
That's just too bright. I think it's going to be a quid or something. Modern coinage. God, I don't find many of these up here. It's a bit of belemnite, a bit of fossil. It's a socking great big 2 quid. But it's really hard to explain. There's so much of this here, and so much good stuff as well. This is the problem. You need to be able to know what you're digging, or have an idea of the depth anyway. But this camera might blow down at any minute, but this may illustrate what I was trying to say earlier. That's a very strong sound. Now, I'm finding it hard to tell whether that's on the surface or that's 6 inches deep. In this case, I reckon it's deeper. I'm vaguely getting the hang of it, but well, God, it's sod's law. It's all getting a bit better now. Still in there and quite deep. Well, I'm pinpointing well today. That's just, I can see it. Okay, it's a lovely little buckle, another one. The problem is that I did think that did sound a bit deeper. Okay, look, I'm going to stop now. Well done, good girl, Dolores. Now, I don't know what sort of age that is, but I reckon it's got some age, definitely. It's a really lovely one. It's like got its pin in it and everything. Just it looks old. It's a very nice thing. Well done. I don't know what to say. Now that sounds a bit foily and a bit deep. This is good for foil. It's fairly easy to tell what is foil and what is maybe just a bit harder than foil. And when you're somewhere like here, which is full of Jettons and things like that and strap ends, it's quite handy to hear that. Now, the amount of bottle tops I've dug up, I really mean it. This is my last rant. I never ever dug bottle tops with the Deus I. Never. Occasionally, but I would know what it was. I'll show you what I mean. I know there's something called bottle cap rejection. Do I really want to start using that? What else will it reject? But here we go, look. Now, I don't really need to go into the ins and outs of why that's making such good noise, but it's bloody annoying that it does. So this could be another one, as far as I know. Just for the record, I am running on multi-frequency, but I've taken it down a notch to the maximum 25 rather than 40 because it's just too sparky on a ground like this. But it's still in there, which is a very good sign, and it'll be just there. Have a little listen now. Well, sounding punchy, isn't it? It's just another bit of lead, but a very, very, very old lead. But I don't mind finding rubbish at the moment with this machine, as long as it's not iron or bottle tops. Yeah, that's what makes that sound. Okay, I hope you can hear me. It really is getting a bit windy again, but I think the mic may be shielded by my scarf, even though it's coming from this direction. Now this really is rather interesting. Any machine would have found this. I don't have a clue what it is. But I'm not sure how old it is, in fact. I mean, I think I can see some sort of lion or cat or something on one side. It looks to me like one of the what do they call belt straighteners or belt stiffeners or something like that, but maybe it's just part of a piece of furniture, and the way it's been sort of filed there, it might have just been sort of part of a Victorian clock or something. I just don't know. Most of me thinks it's modern, and a tiny bit of me thinks it's medieval, but I think it's just too well made. I think that's been part of some sort of furniture fitting, part of a sort of table or something. It's gone against something, it's a bit of moulding, but it's a jolly nice thing. Yeah, really interesting. Gut feeling is it's fairly modern, but I'm hoping it might be older. If I'm going back to headquarters, it means that it's nice. Let's go. Well, that's sort of the icing on the cake of what's been a pretty mixed day, I've got to say. Maybe I was in a bit of a rant because it started so slowly. But anyway, this really is wonderful. It wasn't particularly deep. But they sometimes aren't, these little Roman coins, and that's exactly what it is. It's a little Roman coin, and it's just, I mean, it's going to clean up fantastically. It's one of the sons of Constantine, I think. I can see the altar quite clearly on the back, and the legend's going to be good. And here the portrait of whoever it is, Crispus or Constantius II. I just don't know yet. It's just lovely. I mean, that's really, really wonderful. A nice 4th century bronze, pretty much to finish off on. That's just wonderful. So look, we found some really cool things, I've got to say. Well, we'll finish on this one. Having just been windy earlier, it's now looking dark and nasty. I think it's going to absolutely dunch it down. Now that, I'm sorry, I've got bored with the speaker. I'm going to get new speakers and everything, so we're going to start sounding good again soon. That's pretty punchy, but it just sounds a bit deeper. It sounds quite deep as well. It might just be another pound coin. But it's right on the tip there, so it's got a bit of depth. It's always hopeful if that's the case. If it's too near the surface, it's really good. Wouldn't you bloody know it? That was deep though. It's another pound. It's another £2 coin. They're very handy, these 2 quids. I do always explain when I give them over, but I use them always as when I tip the guy from Tesco's who comes to deliver the food shopping, because, well, it's not always the same guy, but they're always so bloody helpful. And I think that if anyone deserves 3 or 4 quid a time, they do. In fact, it's interesting. I ask them quite often, how often you get tipped? They say basically never, ever, ever. And the job they do, I mean, it's hard work. And so I always say, look, these look a bit grotty, but they can still be used. It's a couple of quid. I found about 7 quid today, and these coins I've never dug before because I've not wanted to dig them. I'm sorry to bang on about it. I'm interested in other stuff. I don't want to be digging nuggets. Didn't they call them nuggets? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Sorry about the rants, and see you next time.